Tommy was a company up-and-comer. Starting in sales, he was able to work his way into analytic roles. Later, he managed one of the numerous product management teams. Although Tommy was smart, he didn't have the Ivy League education that his peers had. And although he was a busy manager, he made it to his spot in life by outworking everyone. His specialty was that he may have been the most engaged individual in a company of over 50,000 people. During an economic upswing, attrition hit the company hard as job hopping became more frequent. Not being able to find the right talent match externally, the company offered Tommy the role of the director of strategy of the e-commerce division, which appeared to be a perfect fit. It was an area that he was familiar with and paired well with his high level of engagement. Leadership believed that it would make up for any gaps, turning this into the ideal stretch assignment. Joining right before the holiday sales season, crisis upon crisis overtook the division as they jumped from issue to issue. Bringing years of operational expertise, Tommy was able to step right into the role of providing triage in resolving problems and keeping the platform online. Following the holiday crisis timeframe, the breakneck pace never ceased, and Tommy found himself working constant 60-hour weeks to keep operations going, fighting each week to hit revenue targets. He was unable to think beyond a quarter, and his main role of forecasting defaulted to previous methodologies that were a superficial planning process of adding 5% to the previous year's numbers to keep their heads above water. Without having an established long-term strategic plan to move the company to where it should be in the next 5 years, the clock was ticking on the company's sustainability. As a few years passed, the division has a reputation internally as a career killer because it had cycled through 2 general managers and had the inability to grow its revenue. Tommy, though, was looked at as the key component to the team because he knew the operations of the organization better than anyone else and was able to resolve most surface-level issues. His work hours continued to creep longer and longer, which led to him delaying his after-work MBA, skipping training, and pulling out of conferences. The organization had previously taken pride in being the cutting-edge company that created thought pieces and had keynote speakers at conferences. But there was a new subtle and unspoken belief that people needed to be working instead of taking the day off at a training event. Tommy's growth and development had stagnated, and the organization took a cue from his behaviors and began to ignore the deeper and more reflective activities. Because the world of e-commerce is fast-paced and the competition cutthroat, the analysts weren't surprised when the entire marketplace was disrupted by an up-and-coming startup. Tommy believed that they would be able to leverage their company's size and influence to squelch the new threat, but they continued to fall behind. As the giant attempted to pivot, they realized that their organization had an inability to deviate from their norm, that they were always 3 steps behind their new market leader and 1 step away from closing their business. There has been an unwritten practice in the professional ranks when it comes to personal development. It is the expectation and responsibility of the said professional. Being too busy to stay up to date with current trends has never sufficed as an excuse for not developing oneself. Though the quickest thing to take off the to-do list is anything development-related because the effect is not an immediate one. The second indicator of a future failing manager is one who hasn't placed an emphasis on networking. As many people age, they limit their social calendars, and meeting new people becomes even harder. It becomes a little nudge that can keep an individual from attending a conference, not joining trade skill groups, or even having lunch with someone new. These interactions break the routine patterns of cognitive thought that help breathe new life and insights into the brain, and that can regenerate cognitive growth and advance skill development. The opposite of growth and development is stagnation and decline. If an individual is repeatedly encountering the same work experiences and addressing them in a similar manner, they are no longer growing and are instead declining. This is the pinnacle achievement of reaching the Peter Principle, or reaching a level of incompetence in which their only real value to the organization is keeping the seat warm for the next manager. The above criticism comes across as harsh, but the result is based on these leaders being products of the system. They have an inherent drive for productivity and action. Early in their careers, they worked hard, put in long hours, and solved problems. These outcomes led to their promotions with a belief that they would continue to do what made them successful. Some new managers receive great coaching on how their behaviors must change in their new role, but most do not. Another easy criticism is that the busy manager is deficient in being able to prioritize their work. Linked to this is the fact that there is never an opportunity to focus on the long-term health of the organization, which leads to continued issues and crises. Although there will always be something more to do, a leader sometimes must take themselves physically out of a situation to understand the cycle that they are in to then focus their efforts on what will provide the most value in the long term. The last understanding of the busy manager is the perception it gives to others. Busy in America is the same as being important. The busier you are, the more in demand you are, meaning the more you are a desired commodity. This is counter to the Italian version of this phenomenon, where the busier you are, the less important you are because important people have things done for them instead of doing things themselves. Cultural norms and self-vanity help push managers into a frenetic pace, a dizzying activity where they are unable to achieve deeper thought levels of strategic and innovative thought.